Borag Fung, and welcome to the 2000 AD Deep Dive. My name is Steve. I am the host of this look into the depths of the archive of 2000 AD, going back to 1977 and right through to the current day to find the hidden gems, the treasures, and the things that you may have missed. Although for this episode, we're talking about something that I think no one has missed, because we're going to be talking about the life and times and career of Brian Bolland, probably the most acclaimed artist in 2000 AD history. I am joined by a very special guest. He is a writer, a critic, a podcaster. You'll know him from War Rocket Ajax. You'll know him as an official Batmanologist, and you'll know him from a number of other projects, which we will talk to him about in just a moment. Chris Sims, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me here in the far off future of the year 2000 AD.
You are
And
very
yeah,
welcome.
if you're listening to a podcast about 2000 AD, I'm gonna guess that you know who Brian Bolland is. If you've
Brian's
read
made a bit of
one
a name for
2000
himself.
AD comic, you probably got it.
He's done some comics that were written by this writer called John Wagner, I think, and he worked with Pat Mills. You may have heard these names; they may be names that are familiar to you.
Oh, John Wagner and Pat Mills from Death Race 2020.
That's the one. Yes, that's what I
Yeah.
thought you were thinking of. Yeah. They
Pat,
also
Pat
worked
Mills, the co-writer of Ravage 2099. Yeah.
and Punisher 2099. Yeah,
Sorry to derail things immediately. When you
please do.
find out that Punisher 2099 was a secret 2000 AD book all along, it makes so much more sense. It's great.
Pat Mills, anytime he wrote anything for American publishers, you're having a good time because there's
Yeah.
10 layers in whatever he's doing.
Yeah, I remember Erica Henderson, three-time Eisner winner, one of the all-time greats, does a podcast called Friends to the End with my uh, co-host on two other podcasts, Matt Wilson and Benito Cerino. And they were talking about Death Race 2000, and I texted her and I was like, "Hey, did you know that there's a comic book sequel called Death Race 2020?" And she said, "No, is it worth reading?" And I said, "It's John Wagner, Pat Mills, and Kevin O'Neill.
Oh my god!
It
Yeah,
is a secret. It's the most secret 2000 AD comic ever, and it rules."
it's like I was talking to another mutual friend of ours. This could be really exhausting for listeners. Dylan Todd,
I love
who was
Dylan.
talking about the best Star Wars comics, and we're talking best Star Wars comics again. We're looking at John Wagner, Cam Kennedy, Boba Fett, Bounty on Barracuda, I believe it's called. Like, oh man, this is not what I meant to talk about, but this is what happens. We're here to talk
Well,
about
look, when you
Brian.
don't need to explain who Brian Boland is, you have time for other stuff.
If you do need a little recap on the career of Brian Bolland, dear listeners, Brian Bolland is a very long term artist for 2000 AD, one of the iconic artists. He first joined 2000 AD in 1977, the year that the comic started, doing covers. And from what I understand, he would typically, the editors would say, draw a cover with like an interesting premise on it. He would draw the cover, and then they would write a story to fit whatever he had drawn. Like, so when you look at Brian Bolland to start with in his first few comics, from 1977 through 1979 or so, a lot of them are just random ideas that he's thrown onto the page that they then justify later by writing a story to fit whatever he's done. That is who Brian Bolland is. He is one of the fathers of 2000 AD, I think you could say. He's gone on to a career, drawing primarily covers for DC and a lot of other publishers. But he started at 2000 AD, and I've got to say his stuff still is resonant, interesting. It is unique. It has inspired a million people, and no one's ever come near him. Um, I mean, Chris, for yourself, what was your kind of like introduction to 2000 AD? Was it a Brian Bolland story by any chance?
Uh, my introduction to 2080, it probably was because I think when I first started really getting into Judge Dredd, like, I mean, very very basic entry point. Like, let's play the hits. Let's read the Dark Judges, and I I'm blown away by it. Like, I always it's weird to say, but I always get a little sad when an artist is uh like so in demand that they can basically just do covers, you
Hmm.
know? Because if you look at guys like Brian Bolland, or like if you go back to the Justice League issues or Maze Agency stuff that Adam Hughes did, or any artists who are primarily known as cover artists who started doing sequentials, you're like, oh, they were incredible at this. And obviously with Boland, I already knew that because you know, I read uh, Killing Joke in when I was 10, probably. So
Yeah.
I'd been familiar with Boland, but then you read you read the 2000 AD stuff, and particularly in more recent printings, in black and white, where you can see how crisp they are. They're absolutely gorgeous. Like, the pure costume design. Like, Dredd has one of the best costume designs of all time. I don't think that's a controversial statement here. I don't see how it could be a controversial statement anywhere.
Yeah.
But like, Carlos Esquera nailed it. Like, got it in one. Like,
Yeah.
uh, but the way each of the Dark Judges is a different horror movie tweak on the Judge Dredd costume, like wild enough that Judge Death is such a perfect costume, but for all of the others to also have like the twists on the helmet, the eagle,
The sheep's
the
head.
yeah, they're all amazing. And getting into Dread in 2000 AD in my 20s, when I was already someone who was like thinking seriously about comics and analyzing comics and becoming a critic, like on my path to writing more comics. It's it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, how did this happen? Like, what is the magic recipe for this to happen? How can I do it?
Hmm.
And the answer is like, all you gotta do is be as good as Brian Poland and John Wagner. Simple, simple.
It's easy to get on, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a intimidating way to start off a anthology comic is, because those early days of Dread, it's John Wagner, Pat Mills writing, and a bunch of other writers sometimes, but you've got like Ron Smith in there, Mick McMahon's in there, Brian Bolland's in there, Ian Gibson's in there. Like, they're all, none of them match each other, but they're all so different and unique and so nailing it in their own way. And that's why Dredd is a million things at once, I
Hmm.
think. That was established right from the start, where you can have Mick McMahon drawing this sort of scraggly wasteland survivor sort of Dredd, and then you've got Brian Bolland drawing a tank who's just like, bullets bouncing off him, and it's just like this shield around him. It's because there were so many different artists around at the time, all good, but all doing their own different thing. That nowadays, when you do Dread, you can go, let's do something based on the Bolland image of what Dread was, or let's do something based on what Gibson was doing, or let's do something based on McMahon or O'Neill. Like I think Ken O'Neill did some. Um, there's just so many things he can be, and it's him and it's Batman who are in that league. I would argue. You
Yeah.
know.
Which is, as I've always said, like, that to me is the sign of a truly great character, when you can put them in any kind of story. It's one of the reasons that Batman's my favorite character of all time, because the brilliance is, all he needs is for a crime to exist. And a
Mhm.
crime can exist anywhere. And If there is crime, then Batman can fight it. And there are few characters who kind of lend themselves equally to, street level detective stories and cosmic adventure and over the top supervillain stuff. Batman, I think to a slightly lesser extent, Spider-Man does it. The Thing does it. Scrooge
Hmm.
McDuck, like those are the ones. Like, because all you need for Scrooge McDuck is there's something valuable,
Sure. Yeah.
and that's maybe the easier one than coming up with a crime.
Hmm.
But I feel like Dredd is very much in that sort of stratus of really solid characters because the world that he's in is so overwhelmingly full of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that comes a lot from those early stories where it's like yeah, like there's a reason you read those and you're like, "Oh, Future Shock makes sense."
Yeah.
And then, you live now and you're like, "I too am overwhelmed by the horrors of the dystopia."
But the dystopia is no longer a future dystopia,
Yeah. Oh,
or
it
you
turns
could
out
argue.
we went long enough.
We're in it now. We're in the 2000 AD world.
Yeah.
And that's something that you see in a lot of Bolland stories right from the start is he puts the detail in. It's not just the characters, the faces. Like every panel has got like weird tech in it, and like he's got people getting monitors stuck on their heads with like little bits and bobs to like tune up and tune down the frequency of their brain patterns. Like whenever you look at Bolland, he doesn't leave like big empty spaces on his panels. There is always space to put like, oh, there's a table in the background. That table must have a weird device on it. You know,
Yeah.
uh, it must have a gun that's got like 10 extra parts than you would expect it to have.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the things about reading the
that's a nice
2000
looking book
AD Judge Dredd by Brian Boland Masterpiece Edition
in
is
stores now.
that these, in the reprints of the original pages, uh, for one thing, you can see how wildly tight they are.
Hmm.
Like it's it's the most detail with the cleanest art it is possible to have.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of times when you get like a super high level of detail, it seems cluttered. Boland's stuff never seems cluttered, but everything, like, they're the only person who I think can draw wrinkles on a costume and make it look good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's incredible. So like the level of attention to it and the level of just crispness to each one of these super packed panels, like it's
I
mind-boggling.
I have on here, my masterpiece edition is to the side because I've got 5 different, case files on me. But one of his first stories was the Lunar Olympics story, and I'm just gonna pull this up to the camera if it can pull it, but every single person marching in the stadium has a different face and a different body type and a different expression, and they are tiny on the page and not important whatsoever. There we go, there's a better look at them. But they are all distinct. And who would spend the time doing that? What's the point of it? It's to show you how overwhelming and how large and how big this all is. It gives you a sense of occasion straight away in a first double page spread. And that's
Yeah.
Bolland.
It's which is again like the effort to do that. And when did that story come out?
That was 1978, I believe.
Yeah, that's a 27-year-old. That's that's the energy of youth,
Yes.
uh, working with that.
At the same time, just one page later, there's a sequence where a long, like a ski long jumper on the moon, who's doing quite well because there's no gravity, um, crashes and lands on the ground and smashes his face up and is probably dead. And all the judges then go, let's award points for it. And they all hold up placards of how well he's crashed and burned. And again, if you can see them all on there, and sorry if you're not watching, but you should be watching, each of them has a different expression that justifies what their score is. I hope I've got that up on the right page. But you can see people who are like disgusted at how badly he's done and give him a low score. You've seen people who are empathetic to the fact he's just smashed his face in and give him a high score. And again, it's a small little detail that no one needs to put in, but Brian Bolland puts it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just, again, it's it's a little bit like the American comics equivalent. Here's my pitch: is Phil Jimenez. Um, it's the more is more approach. The best way to convey more is to put more on the page. And
Yeah.
I think Brian Bolland in particular was really good at doing that in the early days of 2000 AD. And it's what makes Dredd stand out from the other stories that were going on at the same time. And it's what makes Dredd the feature character of 2000 AD. It
Yeah.
is this idea there is this success out there. There's so much to process, as you say. You can't take it all in at once. And despite him having these big, bold, rounded figures, he's also filling in so much detail around them that he just you can read the stories 5 times and miss things. You have to go back and read it again. It's
Yeah.
very rereadable, I think, is
Like,
a Bond story.
especially when it's something like The Cursed Earth, where there's so many, like, jokes and gags and weird bits
Mhm.
throughout that stuff that, like, it is, like, it's very much the Kevin O'Neill school of, like, let's fill up the panel with stuff to look at.
Mm.
And that's a tough balance to find.
Yeah.
Um, I am I am known as someone for whom George Perez is not one of my favorite artists.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I would never say George Perez was bad at drawing comics. That's factually untrue.
Sure.
But for me, the draw to Perez is how much he draws. It's the amount. And it, not to say that it is not also quality work, but I feel like that is the draw to a lot of that stuff. You read Crisis, you read The Avengers, you read
Mhm.
JLA Avengers, you read so much of his stuff, and he's got those big packed panels, but they don't work for me in the way that Boland's stuff does.
Mm.
And generally, I'm like a a Bruce Timm, Mike Parabek, Chris Sprouse guy,
Yeah.
where I like the the more Alex Toth, uh, Jack Kirby stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so when you get this, Boland stuff that's like almost photorealistic, like almost shouldn't work for me, despite being so objectively good.
That kind of
And yet,
level of uncanniness in there. Yeah.
yeah, but it's perfect. Like it's incredible. Like it's undeniably some of the best stuff in comics.
Mm. Interesting you mentioned Toph, because Toph is one of the few people that he mentioned as one of his direct influences when he first went into comics. So I believe he's one of the few people. I think he did an interview for the Thrillcast, available on this very YouTube channel, where he mentioned having some original artwork on his walls. I think that's the one artist he's kind of a fanboy for, if you want to put it that way, which I
That's
just have.
that's not surprising because Toth was incredible, but it is a little surprising because it's a friend of mine uh, once said that like art kind of comics art kind of splits between Alex Toth and Neil Adams, and so you get
Interesting.
the like more realistic style descending from Adams and the more stylized stuff descending from Toth. And I would have thought that Boland would be on that side, but I mean, like obviously, you don't have to draw like Alex Toth to appreciate his work.
Yeah.
But I know he's also like an unsurprising like Mobius guy, which I
Mm.
think is a great like talk about a guy who is both stylized and detailed.
Yeah. Who does it all? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is a direct influence to Bolland, but another artist who I think there's a lot of similarities in styles is Don Lawrence, who's a huge figure in British comics in particular. I don't know how much it translates into America and overseas, but Don Lawrence, things like Trigan Empire, he's worked with Michael Moorcock. Like, he's an artist who has had a massive influence with the sort of the Alex Ross style 1950s aesthetic, but being put in a futuristic setting. So,
Mhm.
everyone looks like they're a good American house husband and housewife, and they've got the dog, but they're all wearing spacesuits and costumes, and they're all ready. The Fantastic Four, basically.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of aesthetic. Brian Bolland, probably one of the lost artists. If he'd done Fantastic Four, it would have been the best Fantastic Four. Like, what a fit that would have been from him.
Interesting that you're saying that Brian Boland's better than Jack Kirby. That's a bold statement for you to be making right now. Hmm.
Jack Kirby, what's he ever done? You know, um,
How
from
I'm out. See you, Steve.
I've wrecked this conversation. I do not mean any of this. Jack Kirby, perfectly good. Um,
Jack Kirby would have killed it on Dredd.
Jack Kirby would have,
Honestly,
yes.
wasted opportunity in the 23 years that Dredd and
He would
Kirby
cross over.
overlapped to not have Kirby do Dredd.
Yeah, absolutely insane. He could have done half of 2000 AD, and it would have been amazing. He could have reinterpreted all of it. I am sure.
Jack
Um,
Kirby's nemesis, the Warlock, would have killed. Would have been great.
man, now I'm just thinking about that. Um, we'll focus on our one master of arts for the time being. Jack Kirby is a long conversation for another time. Um, but
Agreed.
with Boland, obviously, he starts off in 2018. He starts off doing a fill-in issue of anything in Prog 41. December 1977, he does part two of a two-part story, and that's his introduction into the interior world of 2000 AD comics. Um, do you know who he was working with at the time?
No, I don't.
He was working with Dave Gibbons. They became friends a few years earlier and were working on a comic which is going to be published in Nigeria called Power Man. And they both got brought into the offices of 2000 AD when it was first being pitched and said, "Hey, which is this something you want to work on?" And they both said yes, but Dave Gibbons said yes first. So Dave Gibbons is on 2000 AD issue one. Brian Bolland was too slow. He had to finish doing Power Man on his own, and then he could come in later. So it took him 40 issues before he could actually jump in and be ready to draw interiors. But they
What
worked together.
what an embarrassment of talent that you had to decide between Brian Boland and Dave Gibbons, and you were like, well, we'll get to you when later, Brian.
Mm,
Let's get Dave Gibbons for now. Like,
yeah.
imagine.
It could have been Brian Boland doing the Harlem Heroes. It would have been, I think. That's where
Oh,
he would have started. Future sports action. But I think actually Dave Gibbons still inked a lot of Brian Boland stuff in 2000 AD as well, uncredited in a lot of cases. So
yeah, I know Boland's usually credited. I've only had coffee today. Boland's usually credited just as artist, so it's I was really interested to see like a little bit of just pencils with no inks in the
mm,
masterpiece edition, because you never see them. You never see roughs or pencils from Boland.
yeah.
And uh, I remember I was at a con a couple years ago, and Tom Grummett had a table nearby, who people might know from Superman comics, Superboy in the '90s. A fantastic artist, but
Yeah.
he had some of his originals, and I was looking at him, and he was like, "Yeah, when I started drawing, I didn't know that inkers existed.
Oh
I
no.
just thought, comics were printed from pencils,
Hmm.
so I had to put everything into my pencils." And they're like, if you ever get a chance to see Tom Grummett's pencils, they are maybe the tightest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, you could print directly from them, and you would probably be fine. But Boland very much in the same way. Like, so
Mm.
much of that detail is already present in the pencils, and then the inks just bring it all out in the most beautiful way. Like,
That
it's a
masterpiece
great
edition.
feature
Oof,
in the Judge Dredd by Brian Boland Masterpiece Edition from 2000 AD in Rebellion Publishing.
available in all good stores now. Don't miss out, Earthlets. Yeah. I mean, that is such a that book as well. That was originally we had an Apex edition, which is a much bigger book. It's the size of a small door, and it sold out instantly.
Yeah.
So we
Was it
reprinted
like
it in
the
paperback.
like the artist editions?
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the only one of those I have is New Gods. But when I was in Portland like 10 years ago, I dropped by Periscope Studio and they had the Batman Year one that Mazzucchelli did.
Mm.
Uh, it was either well, it was no, it wasn't Batman Year One. It was Born Again, Daredevil,
Okay.
and they like reproduced the vellum overlays, and it's like, oh my god, this is magic. Like
So-
this is I. How does this come into existence?
yeah.
Like,
There is, from another publisher, a distinguished competition. There is a current art edition Brian Bolland Killing Joke out there at the moment, which is absolutely huge as well. And we should mention, of course, Brian Bolland. After a few years of 2000 AD, I think around 1979 or so, the British invasion started of comics, and he was one of the first people recruited by DC to do covers for Green Lantern, I think he would have started on, then quickly
mm,
into interiors. And after a long while working there, he did the Killing Joke, probably one of the most acclaimed Batman stories there's ever been, or the most interesting and divisive ones at the same time. I mean,
hasn't aged well, I don't think, story wise.
sure,
I think it like I have complicated feelings on Killing Joke, and that is a whole other podcast. I think we can agree that that the art's good.
sure.
What was interesting about it to me is because I grew up with the like for a long time they had it as just like a $5 prestige format, like $4.99 little paperback that you could get. And that's how I first read The Killing Joke.
Mm,
And it had that John Higgins coloring in it, which I also always really liked. And only kind of found out much, much later when Boland recolored it for the deluxe edition reprint in the 2000s that uh, he didn't like the coloring
mm,
that because Higgins had apparently done it on like a very tight deadline with no instructions and kind of went with what I think is a very fitting, like really psychedelic, like uh lots of bright colors style.
yeah,
Um
carnival feel
yeah,
to it. Yeah.
I think it really works, but seeing Boland's recoloring was really interesting to see how he envisioned it in color as a more as less of an acid trip, less of a like more I always hate to use the word realistic, but like more realistic style. Uh
Sure.
like it's like really kind of fascinating to see how much that can change the tone of a story and how the story works. Because for one thing, he doesn't give Boland doesn't give Batman the oval, uh,
Mm,
the yellow oval on his chest, and I was like, well, that's a mistake, Brian.
sure.
Uh, that's Batman needs that oval. Needs that oval. Bring back that oval. That's if the readers of 2000 AD take anything away from this, bring back that oval. But then you go back and read 2000 AD, which of course was printed in black and white for so long, and it's interesting to see that one of his first big, I mean, probably like biggest in terms of like readership and impact books at the time, like going from black and white where everything is so tight and crisp and the shading does so much of the work to a color work that is so different than he envisioned it.
Mm,
Like I'd be very curious to know a color work that's so different that 20 years later he recolored it.
yeah.
Like that it still bugged him 20 years later. Uh I think it's very,
So I think this
I
is a thing that he's experienced a lot of is, you would kind of think, Brian, at this point, go ahead and do it the way you think it should be done. And there's quite a lot of editorial interference to say, actually, no, we want you to move more into our style, our existing style. You know, I think there's a reason that his longest running American work, I think, is the covers for stuff like Animal Man at Vertigo, where Karen Berger would have gone, I trust you to do it the way you want it to go, as opposed to when you're working in interiors, especially when it's the quick turnaround, the regular deadlines. There's more of a collaborative experience in American comics, I would argue, and it does change the way that you approach the work, I suppose. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, like, Higgins also colored Watchmen, you know? So it's not like they just got some guy to hit a deadline.
mm.
He was a, he was also a 2000 AD guy, was a British invasion guy, so it's he makes sense to put on that book. It's just very interesting to me to know that Boland had a vision, and what's probably his most famous work was not that vision for 20 years.
And he held on to it for 20 years, and when he had the chance, he made
Yeah,
it his own.
yeah.
You know, and something so interesting about Bolland is his approach to faces. Um, because I know that he's in at times. He was doing covers for Batman. I want to say it's Gotham Knights.
Yes, he did the
Um,
covers for a run of Gotham Knights.
yeah, and he quit when they said, "Oh, Bane's going to be in a comic for a while." And he was like, "I wanted to draw the Penguin. I wanted to draw, the characters with interesting faces. I didn't want to draw Bane." So he dropped off the book. According to my sources, which are the internet in 2025. So who knows if that's correct. But I love the idea that he was so focused on, I want to draw the characters with more interesting faces. The penguin of his grotesque, sort of like, you know, swollen features towards the nose and like the big cheeks and like uh, there's a lot of cats like that. You see the covers he has done, and he's so interesting how he draws like the Batman Rogues Gallery, or when he draws the 2000 covers on our anniversary editions. He gives every character a different face structure. It's not just circle with face on it. It is this person's got a tight cheekbones, or this person's got a long nose, or this person's got elongated forehead. Like he makes people really unique looking in his work.
Bane's only in that book for an arc. Like, Brian, if you would have stuck around for 3 months, you probably could have drawn the Penguin after. Like,
You heard
you know,
nothing I
that's
said after Bane, did you?
that's
Just
all. No, like I heard. It's just weird to me that you'd be like, oh, I want to draw the Penguin. Well, like, Penguin's gonna be in this eventually. You know, there's a there's a lot of Batman guys,
Mm,
Brian.
you've got to get around them all. Yeah.
I was actually reading yesterday. I reread bits of Batman 400,
Mm,
where which is a big Ra's al Ghul story, but it's got all the other villains in it, and Boland draws the climactic fight between Batman and Ra's, and it kicks ass. It's so good. Like,
I did not know it existed. I'm writing that down. I'm
oh yeah,
reading that
he
after this.
there's a panel of Ra's coming out of the Lazarus pit that is like, and again, this is a comic that's on newsprint because like 400 would have been like 1985 or 6. So like it's not like, it ain't on Baxter paper. That's
Mm.
one for the heads. Real heads know about Baxter paper. Uh but like it's so good. Like that's one of the reasons that I'm glad that things, genuinely, not a plug. I'm glad that things like the Masterpiece edition and like the artist editions and stuff like that exist because generally speaking, I think printing on newsprint gets a bad rap.
Mm.
I think comics look perfectly fine on newsprint in the way that like that's just what they looked like for a long time. And I don't love that like if I go and read like the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul, Neil Adams has gone back and recolored that with
Mm.
modern technology, and it doesn't look like it did. Uh, but even on newsprint, that Boland stuff is unbelievably good. And if you get to see it in like a cleaned up reprinted version on nice paper, it's like it's it's stunning. It's even
Mm.
better.
And this is one of the things about Bolland is the amount of interior work he's done is limited in a sense. It is mostly Dredd, then it's a few stories about at DC and Camelot 3000?
Camelot
2000?
3000, the forgotten.
3000, yeah, Mike Barr, isn't it, on that one, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah, like, but there's not a huge amount. He's not, he isn't like, Dave Gibbons, where there's like a lot of different stories he's worked on, a lot of different approaches he's taken. Boland's work, you can kind of narrow it right down. And it's so interesting if you go back to 2000 AD, like all of his stuff is like, it's like the greatest hits. Like, his work is like Cursed Earth Saga, Day the Law Died, Judge Death Lives, Blockmania. Like, it's just like when there was a big story, he would just be there, and he would just be providing that depth and that detail. And obviously, he's done the same thing at DC a little bit, but he's just got this feel of like he is the blockbuster artist. He is the big gun that you bring in to impress people.
yeah.
And
Like it's he's one of the few artists that I think, no matter what your taste is, like if you are a comics art enjoyer, like if you are a Bruce Timm guy, if you are a Neil Adams guy, if you're a Osamu Tezuka guy,
mm,
like, or person, I think Boland's good enough at what he does that it's virtually always going to be impressive. Like I
yeah,
think it's, you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's because here's the thing. An Alex Ross, when Alex Ross paints something, it looks like a painting, you know?
mm,
And I think that's perfectly fine and valid. I think sometimes Superman looks like Alex Ross's neighbor. Like Superman looks like whoever Alex Ross, like, did some reference photos of, and it's not, it doesn't look, it looks like a guy and not a superhero. It looks like
sure,
a it looks
yeah.
like a human being and not a superhero. In the way that in movies, you're watching, you never kind of forget, oh, that's Chris Evans, that's Robert Downey Jr.,
Yeah.
that's, Christopher Reeve.
Joe
Um,
Everyman is being played by Will Smith. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, when Brian Boland draws something, it never doesn't look like comics.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
like you you read it and you're like, oh, that's Batman. Like that's not a painting of Batman. Uh that's not a guy dressed as Batman. That's Batman.
Mm.
That's Judge Dredd. Like, particularly with Dredd, I think it's so hard to like give a definitive artist for Dredd, because like we've said, so many great people, like, you know, very easy to argue that Esguerra is the definitive Dredd artist. Very
You
easy to argue that a lot of people could be considered,
you
but
can
like,
come in at any point in time in the 80s, the 90s, the noughties, the modern day, and you can go modern day. You can go. I read a bunch of Henry Flint Dredd. He's
yeah,
my Dredd.
Henry
Uh,
Flint's Dredd's great.
yeah. Like there's so many different eras of it, but Bolland
With
is like he's hard not to argue is a definitive artist.
Yeah, you look at that face, you know,
Mm.
and that's what Judge Dredd looks like. Like, that's it. Like, you look at Judge Anderson and you're like, that's what Judge Anderson looks like. That's what Judge Death looks like. Like, that's what Mega City 1 looks like.
Mm.
I did just send you via email the panel of Raish coming out of
Oh man,
the pit,
I'm
which
gonna get
is,
that comic straight after this. I'm gonna read that. That sounds amazing.
it's
Um,
good. It's
yeah.
real good.
Uh,
Doug Mancha's best work, I think.
oh, I love Doug March. Oh, okay, brilliant. Well, that's my evening sorted.
You love Doug Mancha and you've never read his extra sized Batman 400 that has a Bill Sienkiewicz cover? Come on.
Didn't know it existed. Um,
Ugh. Steve, what are we doing?
oh man, there's so much to learn. There's so much to do. But this is why. If only it was a DC deep dive, we have to get there. Chris, we are running out of time, I think. So I want to jump straight into the most important part of the show, the plugs. Chris, I had a great time talking to you. Where can we find more from you, and what are you up to at the moment on the internet?
Well, if people want to hear me talking about some of my favorite comics each and every week, including the beautiful Judge Dredd by Brian Boland Masterpiece Edition, available now at a price of uh, $29.99 pounds or 39.99 US dollars or
So affordable.
49.99 Canadian dollars.
So affordable.
So affordable.
Oof.
Like, honestly, you're kind of losing money not getting it.
Mm.
But if you want to hear me talk about other things that I like and talk about comics and swords, of which I am a noted fan, you can listen to the War Rocket Ajax podcast each and every week. Uh, Goes up on Mondays at noon. We've had uh, Arthur Wyatt, we've had Mike Mulcher, we've had a lot of people uh, that 2000 AD readers would be familiar with, and of course a lot of American creators as well. A lot of times, though, it's just me and Matt D. Wilson having a good time. I also do a podcast called Apocrypals, which is about the Bible. It is two non-believers read through the Bible, and we try not to be jerks about it. Uh, Featuring me and my co-host Benito Sereno, the writer of currently Blood and Thunder from Image Comics, which is also a great book that you should check out. Uh, and yeah, you can find other stuff that I've written, including uh, an extensive discussion of the HBO Max original series Pennyworth, which I wrote about 5,000 words about how weird the show about Batman's butler is, which was showrun by, that's right, the director of Judge Dredd the movie, Danny Cannon.
Really? Did
Yes.
not know that.
Yeah, so there is some slight defense of Judge Dredd 95 in there, and a weird look at British pop culture influences on that show. You can find those at my website, which is the-isb.com. I'm also on Blue Sky as the isb.bsky.social, but all I do there is post panels from manga and jokes about D&D. So
What more could you really want, to be honest?
honestly, I feel like if more people were doing that on Blue Sky, we'd be a lot happier. But I
Exactly.
get the reasons for the other stuff.
Yeah. Hey, there's room for everything on God's blue sky. Chris, thank you so much for your time coming on to the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've been a long time fan of Rocket Ajax, and I remember that Comics Alliance website was quite good back in the day as well. Some
I've
good
heard
writers
that.
on there. Yeah,
I've heard that.
yeah, many
I've heard a
many
lot
good
of people
writers.
who did that went on to go do good things
Yeah,
elsewhere as well.
interesting. That yeah,
Yeah.
mostly
And
Caleb,
Steve,
mostly
I gotta
Caleb.
say, hey, Naruto versus TMNT came out, and I was like, that is the comic that man was born to write.
Yeah.
But Steve, I am also, I should say, big fan of yours. Love the stuff that you do, and I think you do a great job. So thank you for having me on and giving me this opportunity to chat with you for, I think, like really kind of the most extensive chat we've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and maybe the first of many. We'll see. But Chris, thank you so much for your time, and to everyone else. For now, Splundig ver Frig.